What's up guys, Anthony here. So I've spent my entire adult life here in Atlanta, Georgia, moved out here in my early 20s. This year I turned 46, which blows my mind to even say out loud. But during that time, I've set down my roots, finished my education, started my family, and just fell in love with Atlanta, Georgia. In this video, I'm talking about my top 5 favorite things of why I love living here, but I also talk about the top 5 things that really chat my What's up guys, my name's Anthony LaBorde. I'm your YouTube realtor here in Atlanta, Georgia, and I'm just gonna come out and say it. I want you to subscribe to my channel. Why? Because this is where you're gonna learn something new, something cool about our great city every single week. And if you're moving to Atlanta, relocating here, or you know somebody, pass along my information. Every single week I'm hearing from more and more people moving here, wanting to know more about the schools, the neighborhoods, etc., drive times. They're reaching out to me. I'm having a ball helping them out. I'd like to help you or your friends out too, so pass along my information, but let's get started. Number 5 on the list bothers me like you would not believe, because I honestly think it's one of the biggest things that's holding our city back from being just one of the greatest cities on the planet, and that's the fact that we still have racial and political issues here in Atlanta. We're the birthplace of Dr. Martin Luther King. We're the birthplace of the civil rights movement. We have so much history addressing this issue. The fact that we still don't have it resolved, the fact that it's still a major issue that's holding our city back. And I see it all the time. I see it in decisions being made. I see it between the governor and the mayor. Our governor's a white guy, our mayor's a black lady. I see it all the time. They're constantly butting heads. Governor Kemp represents pretty much all of Georgia. Well, that's what a governor does. But in terms of the political divide, the demographics, a majority of them are conservative and Republican in the state, in the Atlanta metro, outside of the Atlanta city limits. Inside the city limits is a heavy Democrat influence. Again, if you guys don't believe me and if you want to argue about it, that's why I have a comment section. Leave it down there. We can talk about it. But for this video, this is what I've seen in my time here in Atlanta. The most recent mayoral election back in 2017 was between Mary Norwood and Keisha Lance Bottoms. Keisha Lance Bottoms is an African-American lady. Mary Norwood is a white Caucasian lady. And there was a clear divide in the voting. Take it a step further, look at our governors. Recently we voted Mr. Brian Kemp, a white Caucasian man, to be our governor of our state. He was running against Miss Stacey Abrams, way more than qualified. Have you ever heard Stacey Abrams talk? Man, she's bright, she is on point. We had a chance to elect the first black lady as a governor, and we passed it up. I'll even take it a step further. Guess when the last time we had a white Atlanta mayor was? Over 50 years ago, Mr. Sam Massell, back in 1969. He was the mayor of Atlanta last time. Guess when the last time we had a black representative for governor? I'll keep waiting. Exactly. Number 4 on the list is we are number 40. Let that sink in. Number 40 in the United States of the most unhealthiest states. That really rubs me the wrong way. There's so many things to do here. It drives me crazy that all these outdoors, all the hiking trails, all the biking trails, the running clubs, the fitness, all the gyms that we have here. And we're number 40 on the fattest, unhealthiest state in the country. That is unnecessary. There was a recent survey done where 30% of Atlanta metro residents claim to be inactive. Inactivity results in 1 in 10 premature deaths. 1 in 10. It also contributes to $120 billion in healthcare costs. And think about this, if you're just active for an hour a day, it reduces stress, you sleep better, you're happier, it lowers diabetes chances, cancer, heart disease, you name it. Just a little bit of activity can transform not only your body and your mind, but our healthcare system, your family values, time you get to spend with your kids, longevity of life, you name it. Number 40? Come on, Georgia. Number 3 on my list that really rubs me the wrong way is our public transportation system here. Guys, we have MARTA here, and I've done videos about it before. You can check them out up here. But years ago, when they were voting on public transportation, for whatever reason, they decided not to take it out to the suburbs. There's 500,000 people that live inside the perimeter. That's where our public transportation is. We are a city of almost 6 million people. That means almost 5.5 million people live out in the suburbs in the Atlanta metro, and we have no public transportation out there. Come on, Atlanta. Number 2 on my list is the discrepancies in the real estate market. I'm a realtor, I deal with this every day. But the $300,000 home out in the suburbs and a $300,000 home inside the city is vastly different. Those are 2 completely different houses. You can get so much more out in the suburbs, but it's not just that. Even inside the city, I sold a house recently that was a $500,000 home. Right next door to it was a $200,000 home. That's crazy. Then I have to explain this to clients all the time, that the $300,000 home that you're looking at out in Woodstock is not the same $300,000 home that you're gonna get in Sandy Springs, in Brookhaven, in Buckhead. Completely different. Sometimes people don't understand it. So the discrepancies in real estate really bother me. And I saved the last one on the list because it's the elephant in the room. Every pros and cons video you watch for almost every city always talk about that, and that's the traffic. But what I do on my channel is I drop information bombs on you. I educate, I inform, and instead of just saying, oh, people don't know how to drive in Atlanta, well, why don't they know how to drive? Maybe that's not the problem. Maybe the city has a screwy system. And to elaborate on that, our traffic problem goes back all the way to 1837. If you know your history, you know the automobile wasn't even invented until the 1890s. Henry Ford didn't bring the Model T to the United States until 1908. We had a problem long before then. And the reason why is Colonel long before the, no pun intended, long before the Civil War, they were ending the Atlantic Railroad. They needed a termination point. They picked a point literally just out of the woods. Later they interviewed him and he said, there was no reason why we picked that point. It just looked like a good one. So that's where they terminated. On the other hand, Colonel Grant, who was over the Georgia Railroad, was around the same time looking for a terminal point for the Georgia Railroad. Not too far away, they put their terminal point in. Neither one had anything to do with each other, and they didn't even communicate on those terminal points. So when they started building roads, they built the roads parallel and perpendicular to the 2 train stations, which weren't next to each other. They were kind of catty-cornered. So you started to see this pattern that wasn't a grid system, but we were still a walkable city. There was no cars. We had a few carriages, so there wasn't really a big deal. Well, then fast forward to the Civil War in 1864, General Sherman comes through Georgia, burns Atlanta down. Instead of reinvesting back into infrastructure, they invested into reconstruction. So they built buildings on top of buildings. We didn't really focus on the roads because we were still a walkable city. Keep in mind, Henry Ford hadn't brought the Model T to the United States yet, so it wasn't that big of a deal. And then in 1908, he brings the Model T in and we start to expand. But instead of just expanding off the perpendicular and parallel roads that we had already started, we started a north-south grid that was traditional, and we mimicked New York City. It worked for them, why not for us? They didn't have railroads up there. They didn't have 2 railroads that didn't agree with each other, and they didn't have all these roads. Now you see it. When you're driving through Atlanta now, it's not your typical grid. Instead of turning right at a 90-degree angle, sometimes it goes back 45 and goes back the other way. It's just a screwy system. And then to top it all off, fast forward another 100 years to 1996, where Atlanta, just still a small city, we were a little bit less than 3 million people at the time, we were awarded the Olympics. 1996 put Atlanta on the map. Between then and now, we added 3 million people. We're expecting another 3 million in the next 20 years. That's gonna put us at a city of almost 9 million people with a screwy grid, infrastructure that's not focused on, 2 political parties that can't agree on anything, and then the continued growth outside of the city without public transportation. It's just a screwed up system. Those are the 5 things I really dislike about Atlanta. So now that we got all that negativity out of the way, let's jump into my positive list. And I have to admit, this was actually harder than the negative list. And the reason why is there's way more reasons as to why I love living here than the 5 that I just came up with. I struggled to come up with those 5 that I didn't like. Those were some big ones, but these are my top 5 favorite. And I want to start off with number 5, and that's the things to do here. It doesn't matter what type of person you are, whether you're a homebody, an introvert, extrovert, if you like the outdoors, if you like museums, Atlanta has everything. First of all, if you're an outdoorsy person, just because of where we're located, we're in North Georgia, we're just at the base of the Appalachian mountain chain. So anything that you want to do outside is here. We have whitewater rafting, fly fishing, freshwater fishing, hiking, running, mountain biking trail. We have some of the best mountain biking trails in all of the area. Just about 30-45 minutes north of here, you get into the real mountains of North Georgia. You can go much more camping, a lot more outdoor stuff up there. But if you're an outdoors person, man, Atlanta is a great place to be. And if you're an indoors person, at all of our museums, the tours, the aquarium, the World of Coca-Cola, concerts, the venues. I mean, you name it. We have outdoor stuff all because our weather is amazing. We have all kinds of outdoors activities all the time. So indoor, outdoor, doesn't matter what your interests are, Atlanta has it here. Number 4 on my list is the history of Atlanta. I'm a history buff. I love studying the history of a city because you can tell a lot about where it was, where it is now, and where it's going just by looking at its historical past. Now granted, and I mentioned in our negatives, Atlanta still has problems. We have some racial issues we have to work out. We got to get rid of that political divide. But for the most part, I mean, we are the birthplace of Martin Luther King and the civil rights movement. But even taking it way back into the Native American days, the history of the Creek Indians and the Cherokee Indians here, and the Trail of Tears, that famous Trail of Tears where so many Native Americans were pushed out of Georgia. They died on that trail. And then fast forward, and I mentioned the civil rights movement in the Civil War, and we played such a strategic part in that Civil War. It was right towards the end of the war when Sherman came through here, but what that did was it cleared the way for Abraham Lincoln to be reelected and for the 13th Amendment to be put into place, abolishing slavery. Atlanta played a huge role in that. Number 3 on the list is our amazing weather. You see, Atlanta has all 4 seasons here. We have summer, spring, winter, and fall, clearly divided. Now our winter is fairly mild. It's a high of 30, 40 degrees. I know you people from the north are laughing. That's not really a winter, more of a fall. But for us Southerners, that's a winter. Our springtime is absolutely beautiful. Right now we're in mid-May and it is not a cloud in the sky. We're gonna have a high of 70 degrees today with no humidity, cool breeze coming through here. Now summertime can get a little bit warm. It's the high 80s, low 90s with some humidity. So if you're from the north, beware, the summer can catch up with you. And in the fall, we have all the changing colors, just beautiful. And I mentioned being here at the Appalachian Mountain Chain, you can go just a few miles north of Atlanta and see all the oranges and the reds and the browns during the fall and all those changing colors, just so beautiful. Number 2 on the list is our education system. You see, in terms of the high schools, junior highs, and elementaries, we have some of the very best schools in all of the country, especially there in Cobb County, but we also have higher education. We have over 30 colleges and universities right here in Atlanta, and we're talking some of the biggest universities in all the country. University of Georgia, Georgia Tech, Georgia Southern, Georgia State, Kennesaw State University. Then we have specialty colleges. We have Life University, which is one of the largest chiropractic colleges in all the country. We have culinary, acting classes, just every discipline that you can imagine for every industry, every level of school, all represented here. No reason you shouldn't be getting your education in Atlanta. Number 1 on my list is just the overall opportunity that Atlanta provides. See, that encompasses everything I've talked about. Everything in all my other videos is the opportunity here. We have a phenomenal education system from when your child first enters school all the way up through higher education. Then we have some of the world's largest corporations headquartered here. Home Depot, SunTrust, Coca-Cola. I mean, these are the biggest companies in the world. 30 of the Fortune 500 companies are located here. 50 of the Fortune 1000 companies are located. Again, the education systems feeding into these corporations. Then you have the phenomenal weather, easy access to the rest of the world. We have the world's busiest airport located right here, so that's 2 to 3 hours maximum to anywhere in the United States. You can get to anywhere in the world so quickly. And then of course there's the job market, the cost of living. I did a cost of living video right there that just shows you how we are compared to the rest of the country. Our cost of living compared to our size, our growth, our opportunity is extremely low. So overall, to me, Atlanta is one of the greatest cities in all of the planet. It has the greatest opportunity for you, your family to come here to thrive, to get a phenomenal education, a great job. And then we're expecting another 3 million people over the next 20 years. So we have more growth coming, more companies coming here. You cannot go wrong living in this phenomenal city.
Guys, that is a wrap on my pros and cons list of why I love living in Atlanta and the things that I don't like about living it. Leave me a comment below if you've been here before or you've lived here, you live here now. I'd like to know what you like about the city or maybe what it is that you don't like about it. And if you yourself or you know somebody that's moving here, relocating here, please pass along my information. I help people every day learn about the city, get moved here, find their dream home, and I'd love to help you guys too. Again, my name is Anthony LaBorde. I'm a realtor with EXP Realty here in Atlanta, Georgia, and I can't wait to hear from you.